Hello everyone, today I'm here with Tyler Hoang. Before we start, I kind of want to explain what's going on here. So the other day I was making an interview with Detsy, who used to be like a Hearthstone player, and I was like thinking, oh, maybe I shouldn't only interview people from Magic, maybe I should try like people from other games as well to see if people like it or not. So I messaged Detsy and he connected me to Tyler, who is or used to be a professional Hearthstone player, now focusing on streaming. And I'm really happy I can talk to you today. How it's going?
Hey man, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good as well, I guess. Were you surprised that I reached out to you? Because I assume that you don't really play Magic, right?
Yeah, I don't really play Magic. Pretty much the only person I know in the Magic community is Detsy.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been friends for a long time. I've known him since 2016, I think. And yeah, we used to play Hearthstone together.
Mm-hmm.
And but I know it's a very similar game. I know Magic came first. So it's very interesting to get interviewed today.
Yeah, I read an interview, like a written interview with you, and it said that you used to be like a successful fashion blogger / photographer, and then you like kind of became a Hearthstone pro and you stopped doing that. Is that what happened, or were there other reasons, or can you maybe talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, it's a pretty funny story. I used to work in the fashion industry. I had like a really big Instagram page with like millions of followers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And so I ended up selling that page to pursue full-time streaming Hearthstone and competing because, at the time it was 2015, 16. I saw other streamers being really successful. And I was just like at work, just playing on the side on my phone, because Hearthstone is a game that you can play on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just playing on my phone, and at the time I was like, well, I'm getting high rank. I could possibly do this too, and it's something I enjoy even more. So I just went for it, and here I am, 5 years later, still playing Hearthstone.
I don't actually know how long Hearthstone is around. I guess like 6 years or something. So you were there since the beginning, or?
I was there since the beginning. I think the beta started in 2014, so it's like almost 7 years now.
I see. So most people watching this video are probably Magic players. I assume that a lot of them know Hearthstone, but some of them don't. Can you? I played it a little bit, so I know it a little bit, but maybe some people watching this don't. So if you don't mind, can you maybe like say what is the game like about? How do you play it and stuff like that? If you can, for a little bit.
Well, it's a card game, so you guys are familiar with that, and I think. Even though I haven't played Magic, I think it's very similar because we're playing strategy games, a strategy card game, and it's very similar in many ways. I do think that when I look at Magic, I think it's more complex, and its core design was made to play physically with cards, right? So that's what its design was built around. Even though there's like also an online version now. I think the difference is that Hearthstone started as a digital game. So they designed it with that in mind, and they're also like their main audience is mobile gamers right now. So I think at its core, the design of Hearthstone is like more simple, easier to get into. But then once you get to a high level, there's a lot of like interesting and intricate stuff that like it's easy to learn, easy to get into, harder to master, I think. Not necessarily harder than Magic, of course. I know nothing about Magic, but I think that's what Hearthstone is. And I think for Magic, it's a little bit more hardcore, is how I would describe it.
Yeah, also because it's most like originally it's a card game, as you said. There is like some restrictions that you cannot really do, but you can do in the digital game. For example, I don't really know if these cards exist, but maybe in Hearthstone you have a card that you can switch to like a different card or whatever. But if you have like an actual card, you cannot really like do that kind of stuff.
In Hearthstone you have like these really crazy cards where it's like you play the card, and of course a lot of RNG, a lot of triggering effects. But there was a card in the past called Yogg of Saron where you play the card and it just says randomly play 10 spells that exist in the whole game.
Does the card actually exist?
Just randomly.
Wow.
Yeah, that randomly play 10 spells that exist in the whole game. So that's something you can, of course, only do digitally. And that card was like a huge debate in the competitive scene, of course, because it was so random and like big tournaments being won by a random effect that you have no control over. And of course, there's so for competitive scene, there was a lot of downside to card like that, and competitive players, of course, don't like it. But at the end of the day, I do think they're more focused on the casual player base. And as a content creator, as a streamer, it is actually perfect because it brings a lot of exciting moments, a lot of funny moments, and then you get all these YouTube highlights of funny Hearthstone moments. And I think that's where the big difference is. I do think it's a little bit more casual.
How much does the skill actually matter? Like, let's say that the best player in the world is gonna play against someone who's like maybe top 5,000 or something. How much of an edge are they gonna have over that player in like a tournament scene? It probably depends, but if you can talk about it a little bit.
We've had very dominant players in the tournament scene. So I think that a lot of deck preparation, a lot of lineup building matters a lot in the long run. So when I was playing, I was in a competitive scene for 5 years, and I didn't win anything in the first 2 years. Or like I would go to a tournament and just lose, and that happens. I think that could happen in any card game. Yeah. But I think it's like in Hearthstone, it's a little bit more random sometimes in some metas. Sometimes we have really good metas where there's not many random cards and where it's very skill intensive. And sometimes we have very bad metas. But I think that's the same thing for every card game.
It probably is, yeah. So do you think the edge is more in the preparation, just like having the right deck, or is it more like in the in-game decisions? How much do they actually matter? Like, can you maybe talk about it a little bit?
I think that they matter a lot, but I do think it's still sample size based. Like, it took me a couple of years to finally start winning stuff, and it just requires sample size. Like, if the best player in the world goes to one tournament, he's not guaranteed to top 8, for example.
Yeah, I mean, of course, if that was the case, that would be crazy.
Yeah. And so I think it's at the end of the day, yes, there's a little bit more RNG added on top in Hearthstone, but it's still similar to all other card games where the best player in the world will have to play 10, 20 tournaments to start seeing success.
So let's talk about you specifically. You already mentioned that you were competitive for like 5 years, but were you like more trying to like win tournaments, or were you like always focusing on like the content production more? Like, what was going on with that?
So I was all over the place. I was between the two. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So one year I was doing content on Twitch, and then one year I was like really hyped for competing. And I think 2018 was like my peak, where they announced like a new competitive system and I was like, this looks very profitable for me because there was a lot of money involved. And so at the time I was with Complexity. And
is that a name of a team or something? I don't really know.
It's the name of the team. Okay. It's the name of the team. They're based in Texas. They're like owned by the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm no longer with them, but at the time they were really supportive. And they hired me to be a content creator, and I told them, okay, I wanna take a shot in competitive, so I'm gonna take a step back from streaming, but you're gonna have to pay for all the travel and stuff to compete. And they were like totally cool with it. So that year, 2018, I moved to Asia, and I ended up being #1 player in Asia overall that year.
Oh wow!
And then that gave me a spot to Worlds, and at Worlds I lost in top 16. Don't even want to talk about it. It was really sad.
how many people play Worlds in Hearthstone usually?
16 people. In the World Championship.
I see. Okay.
And then I got $25,000 for 16th place. So
wow,
still pretty good deal.
Maybe I chose the wrong game. But recently, I think this year you kind of shifted and you're focusing on like streaming and making content a lot more. Is that maybe hard because Hearthstone changed, or what happened there?
Yeah. So the big thing for me with competing was I love the traveling. I kind of use it as an excuse to get to travel as well. So it's like I get the best of both worlds. I get to compete, I still get to make money and make a living, and I get to like travel and meet all these cool people. So when COVID happened, all the tournaments changed to online. So we were just sitting at home playing the tournaments.
Yeah.
And that's where it kind of shifted for me personally, where I was like, I don't get the best of both worlds anymore. I don't get the travel. So I have to compete with the added stress of, well, kind of insecurity, because you never know when you win and you never know if you're going to make enough money.
Yeah.
And I have a huge following on Twitch. I have 100K followers.
Wow,
So for me, it was just the obvious choice to focus on content creating because, well, both of those things you do at home. And yeah, so I chose the consistent path.
Is Hearthstone still thriving right now, or like, do you think it's gonna continue for several more years? I don't actually know what's going on with that. So, do you have an insight about that?
Honestly, one of the reasons why I chose to go towards content creating is because the competitive scene is kind of going down a little bit.
I see.
Price pools are getting lower, and I think COVID had a lot to do with it. But also the fact that Blizzard sold their esports right to YouTube. So they used to broadcast all the tournaments on Twitch, which was huge. They had like lots of viewership. And then when they switched to YouTube, the viewership gone down a lot. And then also over the years, I just see the prize pools going down as well. So yeah, I do think there's something wrong there in the competitive scene, and it's not having an upward trend, whereas content creating is. So yeah, for me, yeah, at the end of the day, it's for me, it's business. Like I still need to make a living.
No, I understand.
And,
I understand.
Yeah.
Are you maybe thinking about switching to a different game potentially? Are you like thinking about that at all?
So the thing is, in Hearthstone, there's many different modes, and I used to play Constructed, and which is like the main mode.
I know what Constructed is. It's the same.
Yeah, Constructed is the main mode, and that's a mode that also like you have to buy cards and cost money. And so now I'm very much into the auto battling genre now. I don't know if you know about it.
Yeah, I know about it. Yeah.
What's the part about it, right? So there's TFT. There was like auto chess, and Hearthstone's version is Battlegrounds.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
And so that's what I'm mainly playing now. So I switched recently, like about half a year ago, and I actually had to rebuild my audience. I used to average 1,500 viewers on Constructed. I switched to Battlegrounds. I dropped below to like 200-300 viewers. It was really bad. Yeah, it was really bad because they're actually at its core two completely different games. But at the end of the day, still a strategy game, right?
Yeah, is the play skill like can you? You're saying it's like a different game, so I assume you kind of had to learn it from the scratch, I guess, right? It's not the same.
Yeah, I had to relearn it. So I actually spent like a couple of months practicing off stream before I started streaming it.
Oh, I see.
And so it took me like 3 or 4 months to get to the top 10 on the leaderboard. So I'm back at it again now. Yeah.
All right, that will be all for today. Thanks for your time. Before we wrap it up, maybe you want to tell people where they can find you on the internet if you want to.
Well, all my handles are Tyler OOTD, Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and yeah, that's it for me.
All right, if you guys like the video, please click on the like and subscribe button, and see you next time. Bye.